Hi everyone, Heather here with Astrology with Heather.com, and I'm back with another weekly forecast. This one is for Monday, March 18th, all the way through to Sunday, March 24th of 2019. And we have another sort of interesting week in the astrology. There's a lot going on this week. We're coming into the beginning of the astrological year. So the astrological new year on the spring equinox, the vernal equinox, which comes exact on the 20th. And so the spring equinox begins when the sun moves into the sign of Aries. And it represents a time of new beginnings, the rebirth of springtime. And, it's a time and it's sort of a marker in time that really shows us what we can expect for the year ahead. And it also is a time when we start to see the manifestation of intentions that were seeded and, not necessarily that we started something, but we seeded these intentions, right? Mentally, maybe even a little bit physically, at the time of the winter solstice. So around the time of the new year, which is where we get New Year's resolutions from, right? The winter solstice is like the new moon of the sun. And so the intentions that we set and the projects that we initiated around that time, or at least energetically set in motion, we can start actually seeing physical results at this time during the equinox, or we can start actually moving forward with creating the things that we want to create. Although we are still in Mercury retrograde, right? And that's going to be part of the energy this week. There's a lot of Mercury retrograde energy. Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Neptune, and it's going to come into a sextile with Saturn, which will help a little bit. And we'll get into that in just a second. But the equinox energy this year is very powerful. So the equinox happens when we have the sun at the 0 degree in the sign of Aries. And this time we actually have the equinox occurring simultaneously with a full moon in the sign of Libra. And so this is about new beginnings, but this is also about a culmination point of something that we seeded in the past, and a need to, at the 0 degree, right, to utilize the energy that we've sort of built up to create something new. And this is also about coming back into balance, right? This is not just a new beginning, but this is a coming back into balance between in Aries, right, focusing on our willpower, focusing on what motivates us, focusing on taking action out in the world based on our own self-interest, right? That's Aries. And coming back into balance by taking into account the needs of other people, pairing up with other people, right? Building relationships, so not just being so self-oriented. So it's about building relationship, it's about coming back into balance and harmony and equilibrium through integrating that energy of the other, integrating relationship, taking into account what other people need, want, and desire before we take action. That's part of this as well. We also have this configuration with the sun conjunct Chiron, which Chiron just moved into Aries. And I talked a little bit about this energy with Robert Phoenix in my last video with him for the lunar month ahead, because he's like the Chiron guy, and how this will affect, masculine and feminine energy. And in addition to that, we actually have Venus square Mars this week, which can bring conflict between men and women. And so that's something that we might see in our own personal lives. And this is something that we might see in the media this week as well. And so that's something to take into account. And this is also, with this being part of the full moon and the equinox energy, this is about a new beginning in our healing process and a coming back into balance by reaching out to other people for support and help when it comes to our own personal healing. The areas where we feel wounded, vulnerable, awkward, insecure, and incomplete will find completeness this week by reaching out to others and making those connections. And so it's a really interesting week with this full moon energy. And, coming into the weekend, it's going to get a little bit more Neptunian, a little dicey, because we have Mercury going into retrograde, and it's coming into a conjunction with Neptune, which rules Pisces, right? So anytime Neptune hits any planet, or a planet hits Neptune, I should say in this case, Neptune dissolves the energy of that planet. So it essentially dissolves any boundaries. Sorry, my dogs are upstairs barking. I put them upstairs this time so that way it wouldn't be loud, but it's still very distracting. It's like a constant thing in this Airbnb that I'm dealing with the Mercury retrograde that's, impacting my ability to work and to record videos and all of that. So I think they've calmed down up there a little bit at least. You might hear that in the background. But anyway, so the energy of this Mercury conjunction in Neptune, it dissolves and creates confusion around that planetary energy of Mercury, which rules communication. It rules your intelligent thought processes. It rules the logical, linear, rational mind. It rules things like short distance travel. All of those things that we talk about with Mercury retrograde becoming more problematic and having more difficulty and having to redo things all the time. It becomes stronger with this Neptunian energy because we're way less grounded in reality. We're living in a fantasy world. We're way off into the ethers. We're not thinking clearly. So you might find that you have more brain fog around this time. You might find that you're very confused about the decisions that you're making and you can't quite pin down the right choice. You might find that you're not thinking clearly and you're more subject to deception from the outside. People become more gullible and more idealistic, and so people are more apt to be wearing rose-colored glasses when it comes to sort of filtering the information that comes through. This also brings more lies and deception as it relates to media, right? As it relates to communication. And so you might find, some deceit coming out in the media or things like that, or in your own life, especially as it relates to things that came up for you in terms of important messages, connections, communications, contracts that began just a couple of weeks ago. Anytime around the time that Mercury stationed to go retrograde, which was on March 5th, and within the 2 weeks prior to that, because we had Mercury conjunct Neptune, and then Mercury actually stationed, because it was moving very slowly after that point, it stationed within a 2-degree orb of being in a conjunction with Neptune when it went retrograde. And so, this is going to bring up some of that energy from that time period. So anything that came up where maybe you fell prey to an offer that was too good to be true, right? You might have this moment of disillusionment this weekend when you realize that it wasn't what you thought it was. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to end badly, though. We have Saturn really coming into this nice sextile with Mercury. And so if we choose to, we can use our practical mind. We can turn this into something practical, and we can find very practical, grounded solutions to whatever issues come up. And so, yeah, we're living in a fantasy world. We're going to be more dreamy and daydreamy and thinking more idealistically, but we can channel that into something real this week. We can channel that into creating something on a physical, practical level. And so, there's good and bad to this aspect, right? It does help us to feel much more compassion for other people, to think more, charitably and compassionately. So this is really great for charitable work or writing involving, charity, or connecting with people in terms of a charity group, maybe signing a petition for some sort of cause, or creating a petition around some sort of cause, or revisiting something along those lines because Mercury's in retrograde. This is really great for especially because Mercury retrograde is more introspective, and Neptune is so interconnected and otherworldly and introspective and psychic, and it's not about this realm, it's not about this reality. This is a really great time to turn inward, to spend time in meditation, to spend time in your spiritual practices, to do something creative, intuitive, to just go with the flow as opposed to adhering to a rigid schedule or something along those lines, right? Because Neptune is very flowy and malleable and watery. And so, engaging with that energy in a positive way is going to help you to sort of use up some of the energy, right? This is how we get into these astrological remedies. It's all about using the energy in a positive way, so there's not a lot of energy left over for the negative attributes to come through. And so if we're engaging in creativity, if we're sitting in meditation, if we're doing something, if we're communicating with people about spirituality or spiritual topics, mysticism, learning and studying about those types of topics, anything that sort of fits in that realm of Neptune, then it's not going to have a lot of energy to play out in terms of like deceit and disillusionment and delusion, where we're just kind of like floating off as space cadets, right? And so it is important to utilize this in the best possible way, as much as you can, so that way you don't have the issues that could come about. But it will be a more retrograde. It's not a good time for clear decision making. It's a time to sort of sit with something and feel it out, and maybe revisit something from the past and think about it or analyze it more intuitively and more energetically than logically and rationally and linear and in a linear fashion. So that way, moving forward, you're going to have a clearer picture because you did that. Even though it might feel confusing, you might not fully understand what's going on up until that point. All right, and so that's basically what's going on this week. And so I'm going to get into the forecast here for all 12 signs, beginning with Aries. And before I do that, and actually I had the chart here for this full moon and all of that. I forgot to put it up, but there it is. So if you want to see what this looks like as I'm talking about it for the signs, you can get a better picture of it. You can see here that there's a full moon, Sun conjunct Chiron in opposition to the moon. We have that Mercury conjunction to Neptune really tight, Mars square Venus like we talked about, and that really nice sextile, you can't see what I'm pointing out with my cursor, but that really nice sextile to Saturn down below. And so that's going to be a really positive influence that's going to help us to stay grounded within, some of the confusion and wateriness and chaos. So it helps us to be more realistic. And so before we get into the forecast for all 12 signs, I do have just a couple of quick announcements. Speaking of Saturn, I am doing a really in-depth 3-hour webinar all about Saturn in the birth chart and Saturn cycles and dealing with Saturn transits. So it's all about mastering the energy of Saturn in your own chart and in your own life, which is a lifelong challenge and a lifelong learning process, as many of you already know. And so if you work with the energy of Saturn, if you learn to face these issues head on rather than avoid them or procrastinate, and work with the energy in a very specific way, then Saturn can become more of an ally. It's not that you won't have to work at it, because it's a lot of hard work, but this is going to be about dealing with Saturn transits more effectively, dealing with Saturn placement in your own chart more effectively, and it's going to be live on May 11th, so it's a Saturday, and if you want to sign up now and register, you'll get 30% off of the webinar, so you can do that down in the description below. And I also, for Aries, because it's Aries season this week, so happy birthday, Aries, your solar return forecast is available now. You can get that down in the description below. It'll be sent within 48 hours of your purchase. And if you're not an Aries sun sign, if you are a Taurus or a Gemini or Cancer especially, you can pre-order your solar return forecast to get 25% off, and you'll be the first person to receive this really unique forecast. No other astrologer that I know of does this type of forecast. It's something that I created very specifically based on your sun sign and your solar return, and it's a 2-hour forecast that goes really in depth and into detail about the most important influences for your solar year ahead. All right, and so that's my announcements. And of course, if you want to book a reading with me, you can always do that. The link is down in the description below. So let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning with the sign of Aries, of course, because it's your birthday. And there we go. I made new things, little images. I made them fancier this time. I figured since Mercury retrograde was causing me to have to redo it, I would, just make them a little nicer. So there it is. And then you can, find your sign a little bit more easily if that's something that you want to do. I know not everyone wants to listen to all the signs, but I highly recommend listening to both your rising and your sun sign for these forecasts. That's how you're going to get the most detailed information. Okay, so let's get into it. So for Aries and for Aries rising, if you were born, by the way, within this week really, and you're in Aries, you're going to have a full moon in your solar return chart. And so anyone with your sun within the first 5 degrees of Aries, anyone born this week in particular, with an Aries sun sign, you're going to have a full moon solar return chart. And so I did actually get into this in the solar return forecast that I did for Aries. Again, that link is in the description below if you missed that, where we talk really in depth about what this means for you for the year ahead. But essentially, the short version of it is that this is a culmination year for you, where there's going to be a lot of activity going on out in the open, where you're going to be receiving the benefits and seeing the manifestation of a lot of what you've created in previous solar cycles. And so this is a year of you coming back into balance through connections with other people. This is a year of you really shining out in the world, getting recognition, seeing things more clearly. This is going to be a very active year where you're going to be putting yourself out there a lot more so than normal. And for all Aries and Aries rising, this full moon is about coming back into balance through relationship. And so there's a lot of healing that you're going to be going through over the next several years, because Chiron's going to be transiting Aries. And so this brings an energy of feeling an awkwardness, a shame, a vulnerability, a sense of incompleteness as it relates to your personality, your persona, the way that you show up out in the world, the way that you project your energy. And so you might feel a little bit more ashamed of yourself, or a little bit more you're lacking in self-confidence, especially at those first few degrees of Aries, which is another thing I talk about in that solar return video. And so you might not feel as confident. You might have issues like body image issues, or issues with feeling like, maybe you're a fraud, or you're not showing up in a way that is authentic to yourself. And so you're going to have to work through some of those issues this year, especially at those first few degrees of Aries. But you can really find healing and a greater understanding of what you're going through and how to work through this energy by connecting and reaching out to other people. Chiron in general is an energy about that, because Chiron is the wounded healer, right? He's the centaur that couldn't heal himself, and he had to reach out and ask the gods to beg the gods for mercy, essentially, to make him mortal so he could go into a cave and die, because he couldn't heal himself. It's not the happiest story, but it shows you where you're only human, and it shows you where you need to reach out for assistance from other people, because you're not going to fully be able to find that completeness, through just your own willpower and your own volition. And so this is a week of you coming back into balance by taking into account the needs of other people before you take action, by focusing on relationship. And this could highlight some sort of culmination point, an important point in time in a relationship in particular, especially, again, Aries, sun, moon, rising, or especially Aries rising within that first 5 degrees of Aries. This could be a really important culmination point in a significant relationship in your life, where it could be a time when you're seeing the manifestation of what you've created in collaboration with somebody else, and you're seeing things much more clearly. And it's a time where you're going to have to think about, okay, what do I want to take with me moving forward with this relationship, and what do I want to maybe release and let go of, so that way I can create something better the next time around in the next cycle. And this could involve not just marriage partnerships or romantic relationships, but any sort of long-term committed partnerships, business partnerships, contractual agreements, all of those types of things. The energy of Mercury conjunct Neptune is going to be in your 12th house. And so this is going to be a very dreamy, floaty Neptunian energy. But spending time in solitude, in seclusion, spending time focusing on your spiritual practices, journaling, doing any sort of deep form of creativity or deep introspection, visualization. You could even get messages through your dreams this week. And everyone, I had a couple people make fun of me in the past because I said something about doing dream journals. And they're like, dream journals, I was expecting more than that. But these things can be powerful, and I know that because of what has come through in my dreams in my own life. And so don't just, shake it off as woo-woo. Because this week for Aries rising, you can get really powerful, really potent, really important messages through your dreams, and it can help you to create something or to deal with a work-related challenge involving your career, your public status, your relationship with your bosses and your superiors. And so you're going to want to pay attention to these things. All right. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising, let's get you up there. Yeah. So for Taurus and for Taurus rising, this full moon energy is happening in your 6th house of health, of nutrition, of daily routines, of work. And so this could be a week of coming back into balance between focusing on your inner world, your spiritual well-being, what's going on behind the scenes, and coming back out into the world and working and spending time, working hard, doing the day-to-day activities that really help you to achieve your long-term goals and plans in work and in health. This could be the culmination point of some sort of health issue or some sort of new nutritional or exercise regime that you've been embarking on, where you're starting to see some of the results. This could be the culmination point of some sort of work-related project or some sort of issue with coworkers that you're able to resolve by taking into account their needs, right, as well as your own. And this is a great time for collaboration with coworkers or collaboration on a work-related project for you. Work is going to be highlighted. This will probably be a busy week for for Taurus, because anytime you have your 6th house lit up and activated like this, it just makes you busier. It's just the way it is. And then this Mercury conjunction to Neptune is occurring in your 11th house of friendship. And so there could be some confusion, some disillusionment involving important friendships, important groups that you're a part of. You could find yourself on the receiving end of deception, either from somebody else or because you're deceiving yourself and not seeing things very clearly. So just if there's anything that seems too good to be true involving some sort of group or organization, involving your friendships, your social networks, you know, it probably is. So use that Saturnian like practicality and grounded energy to help you to navigate, and you know, really engaging very compassionately and lovingly within a group. This is a really great week for charitable work, or you know, teaming up with some sort of charitable organization that's in alignment with your moral and ethical values and beliefs. And this is a time when, you know, doing these types of things, engaging in altruistic activities, utilizing your compassion to benefit, you know, the greater good, or to benefit the group, can really help you to hone in on what you truly want, or what you truly believe, right? What are your ethical and moral values? It can help you to align yourself with your integrity, which is something that you're working on right now with Saturn and Pluto in your 9th house. And you know, this would be a great time to revisit any plans involving taking a long distance vacation, or doing some sort of long distance travel, or taking a vacation with a group of people or with your friends. If that's something that you've thought of in the past, now's the time when you can bring it back up, revisit it. You might be a little too fantastical about it and have some big dreams, but that's not necessarily the worst thing, and Saturn will help you to manifest those dreams into reality. All right. And then for Gemini and for Gemini rising, this full moon energy is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of fun, play, spontaneity. It's where you go to enjoy your life, to experience joy, to just go and have fun. And so this is a really important time when you can do that, right? That area is being highlighted. So you might want to, you know, engage in romance, go on a date with your partner if you have one, go on a date with someone else if you don't have one. This is a really great time to focus on your children, if you have any, to engage in play with your children, to do something fun and playful, you know, with children in general, that are a part of your life. It's not so much about, it's about coming back into balance between focusing on the group and what the group needs and the group wants, and focusing on your friends and, you know, what they care about, and focusing more on your passions, you know, your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love to do because you love to do them. And that's going to be a very healing process for you to focus on finding joy this week, going out and just living it up and having a good time as much as you can. There could be some issues involving work that might, you know, well, I don't think it'll prevent you from doing that. I think you're going to have a hard time working this week for Gemini. You're going to be very distracted. Your brain is going to be very foggy. You're going to be kind of daydreaming and fantasizing and floating off in the ethers, and there's not going to be a lot of really tangible energy and motivation to get things done. But this is a great time for you to reflect and to visualize what it is that you truly want, need, and desire when it comes to your career and public reputation. And you know, you could fall prey to deception, delusion, disillusionment as it relates to, you know, important work projects, relationships with your superiors and bosses or your coworkers. There could be something where you felt you succumbed to a deal maybe a couple of weeks ago, or some sort of message came through and you fell for it and it was too good to be true, and then you have this moment of disillusionment. But really honing in on what you want and desire, you know, incorporating some spirituality and creativity into your work routine this week, and really just visualizing what it is that you want for yourself. That's going to help you in terms of finances, especially joint finances, paying off debts, dealing with taxes, you know, other people's money, that type of thing. And it's going to help you to become more empowered and to come into your power through the work that you're doing. All right, and then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, that was Gemini, by the way. So that's Gemini. I forgot to put the thing up. And so this next one here is Cancer. I apologize. So Geminis, yours was just in the past. So somebody hopefully will make timestamps for that. I apologize. It's, you know, Mercury retrograde. This is actually the second time I'm recording this video too. The first time I had a little bit of a mishap yesterday, so I had to redo it the next day when I had more time. because that's what Mercury retrograde does. But I feel like the video it's going to be better this time, right? Because I already did it once. I rehearsed it. So anyway, so Cancer, and for Cancer rising, this energy here is happening in your 4th house with the full moon in the sign of Libra. And this is you coming back into balance between your work life, what it is that you're doing out in the open, out in the public eye, and what it is that you come home to. Your home, your family, your property, your place of living, your immediate surroundings, but also you figuring out your comfort zones. What do you want after work, right? And so this is a good time for you to engage in any sort of family related activities. This is a good time to spend time at home, just relaxing and spending time away from your work life. You're going to find healing through there. There could be some sort of shame or guilt or vulnerability or awkwardness around your career and public reputation right now, where you don't feel like you're being true to yourself, or you feel ashamed of something that you did, or you don't feel like what you're doing out there is full and whole and complete. Or there could be some sort of trauma or past situation that's coming back around involving a boss or something like that, somebody in a position of power and authority. You might have issues with people in positions of power and authority with Chiron transiting through the 10th house over the next few years. But now's the time when you can find solace and you can find healing through your connections at home. And so if you're not somebody who lives with other people, if you're not somebody who has close family bonds, this could even be something as simple as inviting a friend or inviting people that you care about into your home and spending time with them on a more intimate, casual level, right? That would be a really great way to utilize this energy, and it'd be very healing and very satisfying. And this could be the culmination point of some sort of project that was seeded involving your home or your property or your family structure or dynamic. And so you could start to see results this week. The energy of Neptune conjunct Mercury is actually happening in your 9th house of foreign travel. So if you have any travel plans this week, just be careful, especially over the weekend, because you might have some mishaps. The normal Mercury retrograde things, of course, apply for you because it's the 9th house. So like delays, miscommunications, car troubles, that type of thing. But I would say, especially with Neptune involved, there could be a lot of confusion. You might get lost. You want to just be very careful about that. But this is a really great time for you to really do some deep spiritual study, some deep introspective work as it relates to your philosophies, your inner world, the perspective, the beliefs that give you a perspective on life, right? That frame that reality for you. This is, a great time for any sort of spiritual discipline, like learning and honing in on that. And, this is a really great time for you to partner up with somebody to do something like that. So you can really become grounded in your spiritual practices, become grounded in your beliefs, become grounded in your educational pursuits, especially as they relate to creativity, mysticism, all of that, through connecting one-on-one with somebody who, maybe has greater knowledge than you, or you can bounce ideas off of them. You can connect with them in one way or another, and you really honing in on what you truly believe and how that relates to your spirituality and your spiritual practices. That can actually really help to create a better foundation for your connections with other people moving forward. All right, and for Leo rising. For Leo rising, this full moon is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of your intellectual mind. It's the house of communication. It's the house that rules your neighbors and your neighborhood. It's your siblings. It's your extended family members. And so this is a culmination point, potentially in relationship to some sort of idea, some sort of concept that you've been working on, some sort of important communication or paperwork or something like that, some sort of bureaucratic thing that you've maybe been stuck on and that you've needed to work through. This could be a culmination point as it relates to some sort of project involving your community, your neighbors, or your neighborhood. This is a really great weekend and week, by the way, for Leo rising to really do something community-based. So to get in touch with your community, go to the local farmers market, go and reach out to your neighbors, wave hi to somebody that you've never talked to before, whatever it is. But engaging with community is going to be very healing. It's going to help you to form closer bonds with the people that surround you in your immediate environment. And so, that's going to be really important. And this could also be the culmination point of some sort of educational pursuit or a new skill set that you've been working on or learning, or something involving a vehicle, right? Maybe, a purchase of a vehicle, or you've been doing some work on your car or something like that, and you get the results now. It could be as simple as that. And then in terms of Mercury conjunction and Neptune, this is happening in your 8th house. So this is a time of really deep contemplation and introspection, where you're looking at things in terms of otherworldly energies. You're looking for a deeper meaning behind whatever it is that you're focusing on and trying to accomplish and achieve. This could bring a lot of confusion, delusion, disillusionment around finances, especially joint finances, especially things like debt, taxes, other people's money, inheritance, investments, and all of these things, especially coming into this weekend, are not favored unless you are a Mercury retrograde person and you're investing maybe in like oil or something that's Neptunian. But even then, I would avoid I would avoid dealing with those types of things, at least over the weekend and into this week. However, this is a time when you really could, if you work on visualizing a new solution or revisiting an old solution to a problem involving finances, joint finances, debt, anything that really takes your power away, a power struggle involving your work or something like that. If you really visualize what you want, if you channel your energy into it on more of a non-physical way, it can really help you to restructure your life in order to pay off those debts, to take back control, to take back your power when it comes to your day-to-day work routines, when it comes to your daily life, when it comes to pretty much all things, right? Because this is the house of things that disempower you. When it comes to your fears and your anxieties around, work, around money, around whatever it is that you are experiencing fears about right now, around connecting with those other realms and those other realities, right? And so you can face your fears. They can come up to the surface. It might be a little challenging and confusing as to what's happening and how to deal with it, but in the long run, this is going to help you to create better routines for yourself moving forward, more empowering routines. All right, and then for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So this energy of the full moon is happening in your 2nd house of finance. And so this highlights money. So money is highlighted for you this week. There could be some sort of uncomfortable energy going on in your 8th house, which has to do with debt, taxes, inheritance, other people's money, old wounds, traumas, baggage, insecurities, that are sort of taking hold of you and exercising power over you in the present. And this is a time when you can find healing through focusing on things that are material, that are physical, focusing on, maybe indulging a little bit, buying that thing that you've been wanting, spending a little bit of money on yourself, doing something, buying something beautiful, right? That's Libra. So spending money to enhance the beauty of your environment, to enhance your own beauty, spending money on somebody that you care about, right? That's going to help you to feel better. That's going to help you to find healing. This could be also the culmination point of some sort of project involving finances. So this could be the culmination of you rebalancing your budget, saving some money for an important purchase. This could be the culmination point of, some sort of activity that you initiated involving your work and the way that you create finances for yourself. You could get some sort of financial gain or recognition this week, just depending on exactly how this falls in your chart. And so it's an important week to focus on your finances. Any area of imbalance involving your finances will be highlighted so you can see it much more easily, because a culmination point with the full moon is all about seeing the physical manifestation of the efforts you put in and having to let go and sort of purge and prune the things that you don't want to move forward with in the next cycle, and cultivating and enhancing the things that you really want. So whatever it is that's coming up for you, you'll be able to see what you want and what you don't want, so you can make changes appropriately. All right, and then for Libra and Libra rising. All right, so this full moon energy is in your sign, Libra, so it's all about you. It's your time to shine. So if in typical Libra fashion, you've been focusing a lot of your energy on your relationships, on creating balance and harmony through, connecting with other people, if you've been focusing a lot of your energy on, taking care of the needs of other people before your own, now's a time when you can come back into balance by focusing on you. What do you want? What do you need? What do you desire? And, creating something around your own self-interest self-interest. And that's going to help you to find healing, to come back into better balance moving forward. This is also the culmination point of an energy that involves your own self-interest. Maybe this could be you getting some sort of public recognition, especially if you have your Libra sun or rising sign within those first 5 degrees of the sign of Libra. You might be getting some sort of recognition for something important that you did. The spotlight's on you, so this is your time to shine this week. So put yourself out there. This is definitely a good time to go out, to be seen. You probably will be seen even if you don't want to, because that's just the nature of the full moon in your sign. You're going to feel more energized, more lit up. You're going to want to put yourself out there a little bit more potentially. And then in terms of this energy of Mercury and Neptune, this is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, daily routines, work, and your place of work, your coworkers. All of that falls into the realm of the 6th house. And so when you have Mercury conjunction and Neptune here while Mercury's in retrograde, there can be a lot of hiccups and confusion around just day-to-day routine activities where your day-to-day work experience, your day-to-day life becomes much more foggy, confusing, chaotic, and it can be that you actually might not even find the motivation to do your work this week. This is you just sitting at work and like fantasizing like off in la la land instead of being grounded in what's going on here. This could be you being too idealistic about a work-related activity, or this could be you being confused about some sort of new health regimen and not seeing things clearly. This could also be that you were deceived maybe a couple of weeks ago about some sort of, health-related activity, health routine, or maybe you were looking for a diagnosis and you were misdiagnosed, something wasn't clear. And so now there could be a moment of disillusionment, but you could see where you were lied to or you were lying to yourself in this area. This could also bring confusion, disillusionment as it relates to your workplace, your relationship with your coworkers. In general, it's going to be a hard week to concentrate on your work. And, if it seems too good to be true in terms of like a work-related offer or project or something like that, or communication that comes to your coworkers, it probably is. But you can use that Saturnian discernment. So honing in on better routines in terms of your spirituality and spiritual practices, your communicating more compassionately with people in your day-to-day life, that's going to really help to create a better foundation for yourself as it relates to your home, your family relationships, your property. And so and thinking more compassionately about the work that you're doing, or incorporating or reincorporating something charitable or creative into your work. That's going to be really positive for you as well. All right, and then for Scorpio and Scorpio rising, let's get that going here. So for Scorpio rising, this full moon is happening in your 12th house. And so normally full moons are all about being seen, being out in the public, wanting to sort of shine. But Scorpio in general has been having a lot of action going on below the horizon. So you're not really in a place where you're doing a lot of stuff out in the open in general. You're kind of working more behind the scenes. And this is especially prevalent as an energy this week because you're having this full moon happening in Libra, which is one of the hidden houses. So this could be the culmination point of something that was seeded involving 12th house institutions like hospitals, spiritual retreat centers, ashrams, temples, monasteries, brothels, prisons. All of these things are ruled by the 12th house. Any place that's hidden away from the world. Or this could be the culmination point of some sort of spiritual discipline or spiritual practice that you've been engaging in. This could be a really great week for you to get intuitive messages, to clear away old karma from the past in order to move forward with greater clarity in the future and greater space, right? To make space so that way when we have a full moon in Scorpio coming up, that you can really engage in that energy. You can really shine out in the open. So this is the time of more introspection, contemplation, hiding out away from the world, continuing on with mundane routine activities, which is probably what you're focusing a lot on. You're probably working harder, and there might be some complications or issues around your work that are coming up for you right now, especially this week with with the Sun conjunct Chiron in your 6th house. This could also highlight any health issues And this could also highlight ways to heal that are not necessarily physical, right? So this is looking at spiritual, emotional forms of healing, diving into the archetypal realm, the realm of dreams, the realms of visualization and fantasy to enhance the healing process for you if you're somebody who's working on healing your body or cultivating a better nutritional regimen or something along those lines, because you can really find healing this week by going inward, by taking time to just take time off and relax. This would be a great time midweek to just not do anything. Even though normally a full moon is about doing something, right? So I guess it's like not doing anything is not the right word for it, or not the right term, but to not do anything physical out in the world, to just spend time relaxing and engaging in that introspective state. For you, you have this energy of Mercury and Neptune coming into a conjunction in your 5th house, which is the house of play. It's the house of fun, spontaneity, creativity, and you already have a Pisces ruled 5th house. And so a lot of the things that you're passionate about, a lot of the things that you do to just kick back, relax, enjoy yourself, have fun, probably already involve creativity, spirituality, Pisces or Neptunian ruled types of activities. And so now is a time when that can actually be enhanced. This isn't the worst placement for this Mercury conjunction in Neptune, especially if your Scorpio rising is around that 18th degree, so between 16 and 20 degrees. This is going to help you to think more intuitively, more creatively, more compassionately, and to really connect with the things that you love to do and that you're passionate about, involving creativity and imagination and spirituality and mysticism, and to engage with that and to funnel that into the way that you project your energy out into the world. And so you can become more playful, more fun, more spiritual, more compassionate this week. And this can really come across and come through in the way that you communicate with other people. So engaging in play, engaging in fun can really help you in the restructuring process that you're going through in your 3rd house of communication, of ideas, of your intellectual mind, of your connection with neighbors and coworkers. This would actually be a really great time to do something in your community, like a community-based organization or something like that that's charitable, or to do something in your community, like join like an art club or something like that, or take a class, right, in your community center or something, right, involving painting, or especially something like creative writing. So thinking about ways that you can engage in that way can be very fruitful for you this week. All right, and then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, there you are. This full moon is culminating in your 11th house, the house of friends, social networks, groups of people that you surround yourself with by choice. And so this could be you really putting yourself out there a little bit more. This could be a culmination point of something that you seeded, involving creating new friendships, meeting new people, networking for business or, for pleasure. And this is a really great time where you can come back into balance between focusing on your creative self-expression, your needs, your self-interest, the things that you do because you love to do them, and focusing on what the group wants and what the group needs, and maybe integrating those two energies. So this would be a great time to engage in something that you're really passionate about, to go out and to have fun with friends, to spend time amongst groups of people. And so you're not going to want to be alone this full moon. You're going to want to, get out there. You're going to want to engage with the public. You're going to want to join some sort of group or organization. You're going to want to connect with people. It could even be just connecting with people via social media, or some sort of webinar or something like that. Where you're engaging in something that you really love to do within a group through the internet, which is all 5th and 11th house things. And this could be a very healing and gratifying experience for you, where you can really come back into balance and make really strong, important connections with other people through that process as well. The energy of Mercury conjunct Neptune is happening in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property. And so there could be some confusion around, some sort of real estate investment. There could be some confusion around a message from a family member, or some sort of communication around your family members. It could be that you were deceived, and that, maybe a couple of weeks ago you received a message related to property or your home or real estate, or you received a message from a family member that, seemed maybe really great, and you were really amped up and idealistic about it. And you get this moment of disillusionment where it's this weekend, it's kind of like, okay, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was. It doesn't mean that it's terrible. It just means that, you might have been kidding yourself, or the offer might have been a little too good to be true. through. But, you know, realizing this and dealing with that energy is really going to benefit you financially. And anything that you're really cultivating right now and that you're really doing and redoing and honing in on and visualizing in a very creative, fantastical, imaginative way, is going to help you in terms of restructuring your finances, which is a process that you're going through right now with Saturn in your second house. And so you can create a much better financial foundation for yourself through these moments of just visualizing and creating something involving your home or your property, or these creative communications with your family members. Or, you know, a creative sort of endeavor involving a property investment, or just visualizing it, right? Visualizing you having what you want in your home life and what you want financially. That's something that could be very beneficial for you as well. All right, and then we're on to Capricorn and Capricorn rising. And there go the dogs again. I wonder if you guys can hear that. It's like all day. I love them so much, but I'm going to be excited to move into our home where we have more privacy. This energy for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, the full moon is happening in your 10th house in the sign of Libra. So this is a culmination point and a coming back into balance between your home life, your family life, and your work, your career, your public reputation. Now is your time to shine out in the world. You might get some sort of recognition for something that you initiated a while ago involving a big career-related project. You might get recognition from a boss or from somebody in a position of authority. This might just be the culmination of a project where you're starting to see it come to completion, and you realize, because you're seeing things more clearly right now, what you need to let go of and change and purge, and what you need to cultivate and develop even further as it relates to a work-related project. This is a really great time to find healing through work-related connections. There could be some awkwardness, some healing, some like dealing with old wounds, traumas, ancestral patterns as they relate to your early childhood development that could be coming up for you in the next few years. And so, this week in particular, you might find something through your work that helps you to heal through those old wounds, baggages, traumas. At the very least, you're going to get yourself outside of it and you're going to feel better. And then for that Mercury conjunction in Neptune, this is actually very retrograde for you because it's in your third house, which rules Mercury-related things like communication and short-distance travel and all of those things that are normally affected by the Mercury retrograde. And one of the things I have noticed, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, is that when Mercury retrogrades in your third house, it's like a quadruple Mercury retrograde. Like, it's like so much more retrograde. You have way more miscommunications. It's not necessarily that anything overtly detrimental happens. It's just a lot of little things that become very, very irritating over time. And so this weekend you might find yourself just very off in the ethers, spacey, daydreaming. There's a lot of energy around miscommunication and deception for you. So just be very careful about what you say and how you say it, because you might unintentionally mislead somebody, or just be very aware of the communication that comes in. And if something seems too idealistic, too fantastical, too good to be true, it probably is. And even if it doesn't seem that way, triple check it against your Capricornian practicality, because you might not feel that it's unrealistic right now because of this Neptunian influence. But for the most part, this can actually be very positive for Capricorns. And so if your Capricorn rising sign or your sun sign is around that 18th degree, then so anywhere from 16 to 20 degrees, then this is going to be in sextile with your ascendant, and this is going to be in a trine with your descendant too. And so this can be a really great time to cultivate more compassionate communication in relationships, creative communication in relationships, or to find a creative solution for an issue involving a contract or an agreement in some sort of way. It's going to bring a solution that, so you have, it's something, if it's something that you're revisiting, right, not something that you're initiating new, but it can bring a new solution to an old problem. If you revisit this energy, that can be very long lasting and stabilizing in the long run. All right, and then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, There we go. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this full moon is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of foreign travel. It's the house of your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. It's the house that gives you perspective. And so this is a time period where, with the 9th house being highlighted with the full moon, where you might get a new perspective on life. You might get a new perspective on your problems or on the little things in life, where you can see the bigger picture and you can cultivate from there. The energy of this full moon in the 9th house can highlight the culmination point of some sort of educational pursuit, some sort of travel plan, some sort of, exciting adventure where you're gaining knowledge through experience. This is you coming back into balance between focusing on the details, focusing on rational, logical, linear thought, and seeing things more philosophically, seeing the bigger picture. And this is you coming into your integrity, maybe by connecting one-on-one with somebody like a spiritual teacher or a guide or somebody who you respect and who, is in alignment with your ethical and moral value systems and beliefs. This is you finding healing through, study, through philosophy, through diving deep into your ethical or religious practices, your moral value systems. This is you coming into alignment with your integrity, if that's something that you've fallen away from. This is also an energy with Mercury conjunction to Neptune, where there could be some confusion, fogginess, haziness around spending, around money, around finances. This is not the best week to balance your budget, even though Mercury in retrograde is a good time to sort of review those types of things, because you're not going to see the numbers clearly. It's not going to make sense to you. And this is a time when, you might overspend, because when Neptune's in the 2nd house in general, it's like money sort of flows right through your fingertips, and it's like, where did it go? It's hard to hold on to money and resources. You have what you need when you need it, but it doesn't stick around very easily with this transit, and that's being highlighted this week too. There could be, you having to revisit an important purchase where maybe you were deceived and the product that you purchased was not what you thought it was going to be, or what your idealistic viewpoint of it was. It wasn't accurate to reality. But this is a time where you can get a little bit more. So I would say this is a good time for visualizing and sort of fantasizing about what you want on a material financial level. And that's going to help you to cultivate what it is that you desire in a more practical, realistic, grounded way moving forward. And pay attention to your dreams and all of that as it relates especially to material possessions, material wealth, finances, symbols around those types of things. But this is a good time to visualize, make a vision board about your money and, the things that you want or whatever it is, if that's something that feels good to you. All right. And then for Pisces and for Pisces rising. There we go. Okay, so for Pisces, this full moon is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of debt, inheritance, taxes, death and rebirth, sex, intimacy, power struggles, control issues. And so all of these things are being highlighted for Pisces right now. And so this could be the culmination point of something that you seeded involving a loan, involving some sort of debt, involving, taxes, involving inheritance, involving, Sorry, I was telling me my disk space was running out. I just got to do something real quick here. Don't want this to not save. All right. So anyway, so this is the culmination point of something, of you dealing with something on a deep psychological level even that has been disempowering you. So this is you facing your fears. This is where your fears, your deep-seated wounds, insecurities, vulnerabilities will be highlighted. You'll be able to see things very clearly, and you'll be able to work through those issues more effectively. But this is especially prevalent on a financial level, because this is an opposition between the sun and moon in both of your financial houses, right? And so this is the culmination point of some sort of investment, some sort of financial endeavor, where you're going to be able to work through any wounds, traumas, insecurities, vulnerabilities around your financial stability a lot more easily, because you'll see it much more clearly this week. And then in terms of this conjunction between Mercury and Neptune, this is happening in your sign. So especially if you are a Pisces sun, moon, rising with this conjunction happening on your ascendant, so anywhere from 16 to 20 degrees in the sign of Pisces, this is going to be impacting you the most. And so this is the time when you're going to be thinking much more compassionately. This is the time when your intuition is enhanced. This is a time when your spiritual connections are enhanced. This is a great time for creative communication with friends, with groups of people, to cultivate a sense of compassion for the greater good, for all of humanity, for other people, and to utilize that in a very practical, pragmatic way. So engaging in some sort of charitable activity within a group could be a really great way to utilize this energy. Engaging in some sort of creative activity within a group could be a really great way to utilize this energy. The downfall of this energy is that it makes you're already a Pisces, right? So you might be a little bit more idealistic, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but when we have Neptune and Mercury involved, you're not going to be thinking clearly, you're not going to be seeing things clearly, and so you might be way more susceptible and vulnerable to deception, to being more gullible when somebody tells you something or gives you an offer or communicates something that's a lie or that's too good to be true. So just be very aware and very discerning and question everything that you're told this week, because even if they're not intentionally lying to you, you can be unintentionally misled. And what you say, be very careful with your words and your language, because you can unintentionally mislead or deceive someone, and you might be more prone to lying or exaggerating or overinflating things, or just misleading somebody because your language is not clear. And so just be very careful and very aware of that, so that way you don't fall into any of those Mercury retrograde issues. But this is a great week again for connecting very compassionately with a group of people, reestablishing old friendships, and especially the ones that are very long lasting and stable, restabilizing your friendships because of your newfound compassion and empathy for the people that you care about and for the people that you surround yourself with. All right, and so that is the forecast for all 12 signs, and there we go. So thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please click the little red button down there. I just reached 8,000 subscribers, which is a lot of people. So thank you all so much for watching my videos and continuing to stick with me. If you have any questions or you want to tell me what's going on with you for the Mercury retrograde, I always love hearing about your stories, and I try to comment back to as many as possible. And now that I'm not in the middle of moving right now, I can actually engage with people a little bit more. So I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're going through. So anyway, thank you again so much, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.